Hey gang, it's KR King of D&D Homebrew, talking today about running your world as though it were a movie. And I'm not necessarily talking about cinematic action that people say where some character jumps up on a chandelier and goes across the bar and sends his feet into a bad guy or something. Although those things, can be cool and you can put them in your game. But I'm talking about actually running your world as it's unfolding, as you're presenting it to the players as they're interacting it, as though you are watching a movie. Because what you'll find is there are rules about how movies should unfold and the pacing and how the stories develop that if you're always aware of them, it helps you avoid some mistakes that you commonly see, in campaigns where you're sitting there as a player thinking, this is kind of boring, or this is taking too long, or I don't understand why we're doing this. All these kind of things that if you think about it as a movie, you can sometimes get rid of those. Now, an important distinction here is not everybody likes the same kind of movies. Some people like pure action. Some people like thrillers or espionage movies. Some people like romantic comedies or historic period pieces, whatever, experimental movies, things like that. So it is important that not everyone is going to have the same feeling about how a world is unfolding. So you sort of, at some points, need to get players that, kind of like the same movies, but not always. If you really stick to ideas about pacing and ideas about how the three tiers of D&D, the exploration, social interaction, and battles occur, you'll find that you can find a general consensus about this among players. Because one of the big things about successful movies is things are happening on screen. Even if the protagonists are just watching things, there's activity. Things are unfolding and moving forward. So let's use a classic example of the players are entering a tavern. And you as the GM are going to describe this. And you say, it's however large, it's cramped, low ceiling, it's very smoky, and there's people talking loud, boisterous activity, maybe some music and whatnot. And then as the players enter, everyone in the bar stops and looks at them and is silent. Now, that's quite an event, and it's something we've seen in movies. Like, who are these people? We don't get strangers here. Or this is a private place. You're not part of our thing, right? We know this from watching movies. Something's going to happen or something significant. Okay, suppose they walk into the tavern, same exact tavern, you describe the same thing, and nobody pays much attention. They just continue about their business, except for those three guys in the corner. They are watching the players. And depending on your system, if you need a skill check or something, but the point is, they see that. We've seen that in a movie. We know how that's going to play. They have to decide, do they walk up and confront them? Do they ignore it? Do they go to the bartender or someone and ask about those people? Because we've seen it a million times. And again, the closest movie version of this is Westerns when you go into the Western saloon, but there's other situations where characters will go into a bar, a place, a social gathering in a community. And the other thing you're thinking about, the pacing of this, you describe the bar, you make that roll for social, that they notice this or not, or everyone stops, and then what happens and the players walk in. Maybe they kind of return to muted conversation. Maybe someone comes up and says, hey, this is a private club. Get out. Now you have an interaction. What are the players going to do? Right? And if they say, someone had sent us, or here's the password, or whatever, that's a different thing than, we just come here for a drink, right? Maybe they use their intimidate, maybe they use something where they back this guy down. However it's going to occur, and it should happen very quickly, like a movie. Cut, cut, cut. So let's say the players are entering a town. Is it a walled town? Are there guards? How many? And what are they doing? Are they just watching people go in and out through the gate? Or are they questioning everyone? Do they say, you need this a pass, or you need some kind of official document to enter the city? And what are the players going to do? Do they have this, or do they have to bluff their way through? Or do they get kicked out? And again, with this interaction, don't take a super amount of time. If the guards are not going to be convinced, the players are going to have to figure something else out. Make it obvious. Unless they want to just take on the guards, right? Start fighting them, but then other guards are going to come. Is that really what they want to do? We've seen movies with this. The movies, people say, I got to sneak in or something if they need to go in. And a thing to remember with movies is screen time is more valuable than gold. Every second has to move the movie forward in some way. You do not want to waste screen time, and you don't want to waste game time. So let's say the guards watch the players. They're aware of them coming in, but they don't do anything. They just let them go by. The players enter the main square of the town. What's going on? super busy. There's all sorts of merchants hawking their wares. There's, musicians and jugglers, and everyone seems in a good mood or something. Or is it totally deserted? Signs of decay. They noticed the guards, their uniforms were soiled. They're kind of sitting around. That's part of the reason they didn't pay any attention, because they're just playing cards and stuff. Total lack of discipline. Or is it a situation where when they come in, as they go through, people look out of their shutters and then quickly close them, right? Very fearful. And then as the players investigate, let's say the town is, everyone's hiding, or they see someone go by and they go to question them, the people just rush off or whatever. Or they say, you ought to leave now, and then rush off. Something like that, very quickly. Because if we're watching this movie, we get it, something's going on. When is the action going to start? Don't force the players to make skill checks. Every building they look at, you make some check, or everything they do, and they have to interact with this person. Wait a minute, I'm asking you a question. Because if I'm watching this movie, I'm like, why is this taking so long? Because unless it's like a horror movie where I look, and then something jumps at me, I get that. But if I just look, and nothing's changing, I'm, again, saying, well, why is this happening? And when they enter the town, don't get bogged down in the players interacting too much with NPCs. They want to have a conversation with everyone they see, or they want to go into a store and they start haggling for things or something. Now, of course, you don't want to discourage the characters from interacting, or there may be something they want to purchase. But one thing, again, I'm watching this in a movie and I'm looking at this and they're going over and over and over, show me that wallet, show me that wallet. I'm like, what is happening? Well, what you can do is break this up by having something happen. There's a disturbance out in the street. Someone's been robbed. The players look out and they notice someone's been following them, and that person runs down an alley to escape. So they go off, they go off and chase them. And why does this happen? Because we're in that kind of a movie. It is not a movie about the protagonist haggling with merchants or making wisecracks with the guy cleaning the street, right? Unless that's your kind of game. Now, you also may come into a situation where NPCs meet up with the players and want to mess with them. And what I would advise is not to get too caught up in a long train of verbal insults or cryptic remarks, or the players delaying or doing this and that. Because again, if we're watching this movie, we're like, are you going to fight or not? What's going to happen here? What are these guys up to? Again, you don't want to discourage the players from trying to avert a fight if they can, if they come up with something clever, or they disarm these guys in a way verbally. We're like, well, what? But if they're out to get them, they should. Now, I was just running with a group, and one of the players is this traveling preacher guy that goes from city to city. He's a lawful good God. He's helping the poor, doing all this kind of stuff. And these NPCs were clearly out. They'd been sent basically to get them into a fight and cause problems. So these guys were insulting and doing this and that. And this guy came up and said, hello, brother, you should know the revealed truth of my God of peace. And the lead guy said, oh, yeah, who's your God? And the player said, he's this God. And the NPC said, well, that guy can kiss my ass. And without missing a beat, the player said, I punch him in the face. Right? And the fight ensues. Because, of course, he's a cleric with a mace and arm. He can fight. He just said, that's it. I'm not taking that. And it was very cinematic. If I was watching that in a movie, I'd be like, that was cool. The man of peace. Because we've seen him so far. They've gotten into some fights with monsters and things. But here's an interaction where if you tell him, tell your God to kiss my ass, he's going to beat you. And it was cool. The other thing is to make sure that you run exploration and investigation as though it were a movie, and as though it's not just about that. It's not, oh, look how long it takes to explore a cave complex, right? We're going to show they go into a room. Let's say you're in a dungeon, and they go in and they look around and they say, is there anything interesting in this room? And if, let's say, you have a skill type system, are you going to make them roll for every piece of furniture in this room? Are you going to make them point out everything that they're investigating and then roll for that, or have them roll, or secret rolls, or however you do this, such that they made 10 rolls and they didn't make the 11th at the little loose baseboard in the corner, so you didn't see it, and they move on. And we're going to do that in every room. Can you imagine watching that in a movie? You'd be like, what is happening here? Is this some kind of like avant-garde exploration thing? So what you want to do is, if they make the effort to investigate, they either make their roll or they do whatever, or they miss it and we get over. There's something interesting there, they find it and we move on. Or if they're continuing to investigate, they're not sure if they're missing rolls, something off screen happens. Something out in the hallway it doesn't have to burst in, but they hear something or whatever. Because I have seen this more times than I can count when I am playing in other people's games where we are searching and searching. And they're like, I like exploration. Well, yes, I like it too, actually. I like discovering new things, puzzles, weird runes, and this and that. What I don't like is if it's a slog. Because if I'm watching a movie about it, and again, watch movies, what's The Mummy or something where they explore the tomb. And that's a certain type of movie. I get it. You may not play in that style. It's a little over the top. But things happen. And that's why we play the game, so things to happen. So one of the trickier things about thinking of your game unfolding like a movie are battles. Because here is where the kind of movie you like can make a difference. People like action-type movies where not only are there a lot of fights, but they go on and on and on. All sorts of people flying around or, guns going off. It just goes on and on. A guy takes on, especially if this hero who's got all these incredible capabilities, and 30 guys come at him. And he dispatches each one. And you can have battles like that in D&D, and some people love them. So that's why they play. But there are people who do not like that. There are people that get bored with that. There are people that want to interact with the world in a different way than fighting long battles. And unless it's a boss battle, unless it's the thing that they've all been waiting for and you have an elaborate setup, let's say miniature setup, or just this is what everyone's been waiting for, you may not want to have encounters that go past, 3, 4 rounds because that's too long for a lot of people. Really? I got to sit here and watch this? Especially if the players that they've got the upper hand or something. I have things surrender all the time. They just realize this is suck or run away. Try to run away, right? Fly off. If I have manticores come down, they'll blast you. If it looks like you hit them, they'll fly away. They don't want to die. Nothing wants to die, right? Maybe a gnoll or something if you play them in the old school way. That's why those battles can get boring. If you've got too many and the players are just hacking through them and slowly being pinged away. And if I'm watching that, I'm like, the gnolls can't really affect this group. This is a movie. So why are we watching this? Is there something super important the gnolls have? They had to search them out. We got to get through these gnolls and then get to this thing. Okay, well, you know what in a movie you'd do? You'd come up and surprise them and you'd cut and they'd all be dead. Because we know that's what would happen. Or minion guards or something. They're entering the fortress and they just cut their heads, whatever. We would not sit there and watch this. And so it's tricky, I know, because there are people that don't want any battles. Again, a game like 5e or Pathfinder or something, not sure that's your game if you don't like any battles, right? Any of the D&D, if you look at the characteristics, they're based on kind of a battle situation. But you can do it. You can have exploration. You can have social interaction. I've seen those games where it's all social interaction. Again, there are games literally dedicated to that. That might be better if you hate all battles. But I have run 100,000 battles, whatever. I don't know what it would be. So as a player, I don't necessarily want to sit there and have pointless battles. I want to have battles that are, close to the edge, that are not going to take 12, 13 rounds. I'm not going to have people that aren't ready to play, ready to do their thing or whatever. That can be annoying. And if you've got characters like that, you got to think about that. Maybe they're in the wrong game or something. But if they go 4 or 5 rounds or whatever it is, you find the happy medium of the kind of movie you want to watch. And I think your players are going to like that a lot better. So hopefully that was helpful to you. If you like my channel, please subscribe. I'd love to get more and leave some comments. I'd love to hear what you think about, unfolding your world as though you're watching a movie, if that's something you've ever thought about or do. But most importantly, keep playing an RPG game, whichever one you choose, and tell somebody else about it.